right, so we're here at the Interlock with Kayla Burke. I'm pretty sure everybody knows who she is. Big Boss Energy Podcast.
We meet again.
Yeah, we meet again. Our podcast interview was great, so if people haven't seen it, make sure you go watch that. But I wanted to bring you on this podcast, Day in My Tech Life, because I want to know more about like your story and why you got into tech and just like, you know, how you got to where you are, because you're killing it at Microsoft in tech sales, and you're killing it on the podcast game, and you're killing it in the personal branding game too. So I want to know how you did it. So like, what made you get into tech?
Yeah, so I would say that I always tell the story that when I was in college, I definitely was trying to become like a computer engineer because I just heard that it was making a lot of money. But then I just went online and I like Googled like, what is going to be the highest paid career in 2017? And it just said tech. And from there, I was just like, okay, let me just go into a tech major. But I struggled for like a year because, you know, when you get to college, you got like 2 years of prerequisites. So you don't really step into your major.
Right.
And it just so happened that I was very torn between computer engineering initially and communications, which are just super like vast. But obviously computer engineering had a much higher like entry salary, so I was leaning towards that. And yeah, it just so happened that FSU had created information communication technology as a major by the time that I came off my freshman summer. And it kind of collided, so I was able to do a major that helped me to communicate, which obviously has played a major part in me communicating with people and building out that personal brand that we just talked about. But then, you know, funneling my tech knowledge and foundation with Java, HTML, database, queries, all kinds of stuff. So, you know, definitely would say that's how I was like, okay, I'm going to take this leap forward. But that's not how I got into sales. So we could get into
Yeah. So now that gives me a little bit more background just like about you. So you actually want to do communications, which you're like, you know, it's not going to pay as much. Yeah. And decided to pivot to tech.
Yeah.
But you're still using your communication skills in tech.
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy. But I want to know, like, you know, where are you from? Like, you know, where are you from? You know, a little bit about like your family and upbringing and stuff like that. I feel like nobody ever like asked those questions. Everybody's always like, well, tell me how you got into tech, and then that's it.
Yeah. No, so I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and then I was raised in the like Delray area in Florida. So that's a subset of like South Florida and Palm Beach, if you're not familiar with that. But yeah, I moved to Florida with my mom and my stepdad at 11. And yeah, I had like a drastic life change from going from Brooklyn, New York to South Florida. So I would say even the exposure at that point in my life definitely changed my mindset, and my focus is a lot coming from like a major city like that, and then being able to just get exposed to like a different type of wealth in the South, to be honest, and definitely opened my eyes, and I would say made me a lot more motivated throughout my life.
Yeah, so do you think it was like good that your family moved from Brooklyn over to Florida? Because like one of my exes is from Brooklyn, so like she had me in the trenches, I swear to God. Like I'm out there with all my gold on and stuff. I'm like, yo, what the, like, where am I? So
I'm straight to Brooklyn. New York is definitely a place that creates hustlers. I think the cultural exposure that you get, I don't think there's any place in the world like it. But I think I was an athlete. I was top 50 in the country in track. You know, so I think for the type of life that I had in high school and in middle school, at the point that I made that shift, it definitely just kind of set up my future in a completely different way. Like, you can't really train in New York or Brooklyn and become like a super track star. Not saying you can't, but it's much more rare than, obviously, if you're coming out of Florida, Texas, California, like the major sports states. So I think for where I was and how pressed I was to like become an athlete and take certain strides in my life, I would say that aspect definitely helped the foundation for sure. But on the flip side of it, I do think it was a really positive move that my parents decided to make, because they have put me in private school, and, you know, being able to go to like $30,000 a year private school, just obviously it's like you're exposed to completely different avenues of wealth. And I think I was just always curious in those situations. I was always like on scholarships to these schools and stuff for sports or other things, but like I said, just being exposed to your friends' parents who have yachts in their backyards or just live a certain type of life definitely influenced me to just start asking questions like, so what's your parents do?
Right.
I'm just trying to see, you know. And my parents are pretty well off. My dad's a doctor and my mom.
Oh, yeah, they get into it.
Yeah, but there was definitely levels that I still hadn't seen, you know, like outside that middle upper class. I was just like, oh, I want to live this kind of life when I grow up, you know?
Because it's different in Florida. Like, you get to some parts of Florida, you're like, oh, shoot, like, they got like a $2 million yacht.
Right.
Like, it's definitely adds to it. So, did you run track in college too?
No, so I had the option. I actually had an academic scholarship and I had athletic scholarships. And I'm not going to lie, I went to Florida State one weekend and we partied so hard that I came back and I was just like, I don't think I want to go to school and be controlled and run sports. Like, I think I'm just going to take the free ride and just be able to do what I want to do, honestly. So, yeah, I had tested really high on my ACT. And with that, I was able to get a scholarship they had in Florida called Bright Futures. And, yeah, you get like pretty much, if not almost all your tuition waived. I think my tuition was like $2,000 a semester or something, like $1,500 a semester. It was like dirt cheap for me to go to college. Pretty much went for free.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So you got your degree, and because everybody now is like, oh, you don't need a degree to get into tech.
Yeah.
Like, if you were going back now and you were starting all over, would you go back to school to get your degree? What would you do, or would you go straight to doing tech sales?
So I think it really depends on your financial situation. I tell people to really assess it from two different perspectives, right? So the first perspective is going to be, what is your ROI on your time and your money, right? So your ROI is your return on investment. So if you're somebody who's looking to cut down your time or your money, I would say no for college. What I would say everybody who doesn't go to college is missing out on is just simply the experience, you know what I'm saying? But I think that I didn't have the option to go to a boot camp at that point. So for my particular skill set, they did have coding boot camps, I'm sure, back in the day, but it was just a lot more traditional 10 years ago for people to go to college. So today I just recommend, assess your financial situation, because college debt is real, right? There's also people, like I said, assess your ROI, because it's like, I know so many people. I was in a predicament where I got to go to school for pretty much free.
Wow.
So I didn't graduate with college debt, which put me 10 steps ahead of so many people I graduated with. Whereas I know people who had $50,000, $100,000, $100K in debt, and it was kind of like, did that really put you ahead, or did that put you at a disadvantage to now everything you're making for the first 10 years of your career, you can't really invest it, you can't really get out the hole. Me, I was able to just straight invest 2 years in, buy my first crib. Like, it really accelerated me, my finances, my credit. It just put me in a very different predicament. So I tell a lot of people now, I probably would go to boot camp route, because I graduated college early. I tried to figure out how to get out of there as quick as possible and minimize how much I was spending over the course of a certain amount of time. It was just like, why would I spend 4 years of college if I could only do it in 3 kind of thing? So I think that would be my advice, to be completely transparent. Like, I would do the boot camp route just because of your ROI. You can change your life in under a year, if that, maybe 6 months. So it's like for a few $100s to potentially what I paid within one semester of in college, So
Right.
Yeah.
So, and like, a lot of people for some reason now are like anti-boot camp for some reason, even though like good boot camps can put you exactly where you need to be at a fraction of the time for a fraction of the price of college. Like, people got to realize, like, when I went to college, I came out with $30,000 in debt.
Right.
Like, now, I mean, with inflation and everything, I'm sure you can't go to like the school I went to, and it wasn't like a fancy public school or private school or anything like that. It was a regular school. I went to VCU. So like, now you're probably looking at average 50, 60K.
Right.
So I guess, like, when it comes to boot camps, like, what type of boot camps do you recommend?
Yeah, so I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people are misinformed about the boot camps. And I think that the advice that I give around boot camps is like, maybe you have to do other things. I look at it this way. I tell anybody that I'm coaching, if you went through a boot camp and you're going up against people who may have graduated from college or may have been laid off, right? This is who you're up against. So you're in a position where you have to figure out, outside of this boot camp, what other skills and resources do I need to allocate to position myself as somebody who's viable on this market or valuable, right? So sometimes it's like, okay, I get into a boot camp, let's say for tech sales, something like I do. Really, all you're learning in that space is tech sales. You're not really you're learning sales, which is an amazing skill, but you're going into technology. So I tell people, maybe you need to pair that with some deepening understanding and coaching, and maybe you need to go really get a certificate in a specific technology on top of the sales. Maybe you need to do things to position yourself. So when you put yourself out there for these employers, you're showing up as a valuable candidate rather than just one of many.
Yeah,
because even going to college is not a guarantee. Let's just be real. Like, my graduating class probably had, we have 3 graduating classes a year, and that's one college in the state of Florida. So I went to Florida State. You got UF graduating. You got UM graduating. There is just not that many jobs in general. Or
UCF too.
Right, UCF.
You know, Miami.
Right, you have
many
smaller colleges like community colleges. So let's just say 15 colleges graduating 3 classes. I think people have this misconception like, oh, I'm going to go to college and get a job. There was so many people I knew who went to college and actually ended up in a situation where they didn't get a job. So if you're in a situation where you can allocate a few months of your time, a few $1,000s at most, or even a few $100s. There's boot camps that are a few $100s, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And what are you really up against? Because the job market is for people who can deem themselves valuable and sell themselves in an interview. It's not necessarily where you've been, So
right. Yeah, I think what people need to do is start realizing that no matter what, you're going to have to invest in yourself.
Right.
Whether it's time or money, most likely you're going to have to spend money.
Both.
Like, but it's going to be both, really. Like, it's going to take time because it takes time to learn a new skill. And it's going to take money because you have to pay somebody to teach you unless you end up using free resources that can take however long, right? Like, if somebody had said it recently, they were like, if it was so easy to do it yourself, you would already did it. Like, you would have done it a while ago because the free resources out there for you.
Exactly.
So, I mean, to me, if I knew what I knew now, like, I probably wouldn't even went to college because I never needed to. So, because I was already in tech in high school.
Yeah.
So I could have just went and got a more advanced tech certification. So, even now with boot camps, they just help accelerate the process and make you learn those skills that you actually need on the job and to be valuable.
And I would say that's the pro of a boot camp. It's very skill-based and skill set based. So when you go to college, you learn like very vast little things of a whole bunch of stuff, but it really doesn't align you to any specific position. When you still get your first job out of college or you're doing your internships, you still have to learn whatever that company is now expecting you to step into. And a lot of people don't necessarily succeed with that learning curve because you study and to take tests in college. You're not necessarily like an expert at a skill. What I noticed was the people who really separated themselves, whether they went to college or not, is like, let's say you go learn to code online through a boot camp. You're the type of person who takes the initiative to go build your own app.
Right.
And really put those things into practice and put a portfolio together. So I think for me, like you were saying, it's like I would choose the boot camp in today's time, but I want people to start to strategically think about the investment outside of just that one little bit of money you're going to spend and expecting the same result as people would put years of time in and stuff like that. It's like you want to position yourself with your skill set that you have now learned in that boot camp to become a valuable candidate on the market. And what is that learning gap and how do I position myself to really accelerate, with anything in life though.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. So I'm wondering, when you came out of college, like what type of money were you making and like how did that like change your life? Like did you do internships? Like what type of money were you making and how did that change? I know you talked about investing and buying a house and all that stuff.
So I was in a position where my first year out of school, I went to work for Tyson Foods in Arkansas.
Okay.
So I chose to go there, and it was like I kind of stayed down for a year and stacked my bread. So I came out, I had signed for $58K, which wasn't anything crazy, you know what I mean? I was making under $60,000 my first job. And that's also why I'm kind of like, ooh, I have biases about me being in sales because within 12 months of me graduating, and really landing in my first sales role after that year of being a business analyst, I doubled my salary before I even did my first deal. So it was kind of like, okay, I went to school, I stayed down, I made $58K, had to move to the middle of nowhere, had to get up and go into the office every day, had to be miserable, really. I was home, my parents crying, and I had bills, I had a car note. Now I'm like, okay, you living on your own, you better put your big girl pants on. You don't want to go back home and move home and call your parents like I'm coming back home. So it was just one of those situations where I really had to ride it through, but it really did give me grit and tenacity. I was able to max out my 401k that year, so I got a really great head start. My cost of living in Arkansas, I think, was about $650. Me and one of my best friends moved out there. We got a townhouse and we busted down. So with everything combined, I was only having to spend $600-$700 a month for my rent. and my living. So, you know, I was able to save so much money, and that prepared me to step into Atlanta in a completely different financial predicament than most people who, you know, are paying off debt, or like I said. So I kind of just got lucky, I would say, in that situation. I was definitely financially a little bit frugal and smart. Thank God for my parents really being like, you should do X, Y, and Z. But I think I gave myself a really great padding before coming to a major city by taking that like desolate job in the middle of nowhere for a year.
I think people should definitely take a lot of notes from that. Like, I feel like the people who are most successful in tech, everybody had to make some type of sacrifice, right? Where I sacrificed and I moved all the way to Japan, to the middle of nowhere, to like double my salary, save and invest 80% of my income. And you moved to the middle of nowhere in the States, in Arkansas, and did the same thing and was able to like max out your 401k.
Right.
So I think what people need to understand is that you are going to have to sacrifice. No matter what, you're going to have to sacrifice to learn the skill, sacrifice to make the money you want to make, and to live the life that you want to live.
Yeah, and I think there's this misconception too that it's easy to break into tech.
Right.
So I kind of want to like clear that up, because I do think it's easy to get into a boot camp. I think it's easy to learn a skill, but I think it takes a certain type of person that is willing to sacrifice a lot of self-time, continuous learning, like, you know, building your mindset as a specific type of individual to really succeed. Because that's what the tech industry is all about. It's ever changing. You know, there's different types of softwares that you're going to be having to sell. Let's say you change roles to double your salary. You're kind of like starting over in a new software or like new roles. So every time you change roles, every time you get promoted, people have to understand that comes with a new learning curve.
Right.
So it's like entering this space, I think having the mindset to say, I'm a continuous learner. I love growth. And that's the sacrifice I'm willing to make to have this type of financial freedom is really the key, you know?
Yeah. Like, and it's crazy because like on social media, people, they're always like, you make it seem so easy. I was like, I've never once said it was easy.
Never.
Like,
I never say that.
I never say it's easy. Like, I swear to goodness, like getting my computer science degree was the hardest thing that I did, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, moving to the other side of the world, like that was mentally hard because I was there by myself. So like, you have to be mentally tough and willing to sacrifice. And, you know, I mean, just learning a new tech skill is not easy.
Yeah.
But all the hard work is done up front for the most part, right?
That's what I like. Yeah.
That's what I like about tech is like you study, try, practice, fall on your face, and then, you know, you start making progress. You break into tech,
right.
You know, things get easier, and then you can navigate through your career, maybe
right.
find some mentors, find like a community, go to different networking events, things get easier, but like, it's not easy getting in, where if you stay consistent, you put in the work, you can 100% do it.
Right, and I think it's like anything else. Like, think about somebody who made it to the NFL. You had maybe 10 to 12 years of your life where it was really difficult, and then boom, you get your contract. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
People who become doctors, you had to stay down for X amount of time, and then boom, you become. So it's like anybody and anyone who is really looking for that type of financial freedom in their life, regardless, there's a certain discipline to the barrier of entry I feel like you have to have and understand mentally, like, I'm gonna have to give some things up. I'm gonna have to sit down some nights and really study, you know? And it's I look at it like, you get to do this in 6 months. We had to do this for 4 years.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, exactly. In 6 months. Imagine like saying like, you know, hey Kay, like you could have made the same amount once you got into this role, as long as you were the same type of hustler, had the same type of determination. And you did this 6 months ago. So I really am 7 years into my career. So if I add 4 years to that, I would have been almost 12 years. I could be moving into a VP right now. I could be in my I'm not even 30 yet. So it's kind of like, you know, just, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I think people have to look at it in retrospect to what the odds are, you know what I mean? And it's just like, you're putting yourself in a really, really phenomenal position just to give it a shot and just position yourself like that naturally.
Yeah, and the time is going fast anyway.
So quick. You're gonna be stressed out. You're gonna be waiting. You're gonna be so ready for that time to be done and just take the test or do whatever you gotta do to just move forward. That it's gonna be fulfilling. And like anything in life, I think it's very fulfilling when you set your mind to something and you actually accomplish it. It's a tangible thing in your hand. It's like, I got this job. I really changed my life. I really am. You know, maybe you're the first person in your family that's able to even make that type of money. There's some people's parents who don't make $60,000 a year. You know what I mean? There's the average, like, salary in the U.S. for a single person, I think, is in the 40-something thousand.
Yeah.
So it's like,
So why not take that risk and take that chance to really invest in yourself to change your life and hopefully
your family. Exactly.
Right?
And that's what I say, especially us being African Americans in the space. You know, we only make up, I think, 3% of the tech industry. So it's like, when you look at a number like that and say, okay, you know, there are things where they have to hire more African Americans in this space. There's a clear need within the space for the talent. You're also positioning yourself in a space where it's like, as long as I can show up with some value, I kind of am ensuring that I know I can get a job in some way, because they have to put, you know, minorities within their organization. So I also think thinking of that strategically is a major plus. I tell anyone, me being a Black woman is the lowest on the minority board it can go, you know, so I'm the most wanted person as well. If you think about it, if there is a lack and you're somebody with a specific skill, now the demand has increased significantly. The negotiation on your pay has increased significantly, and your odds have increased significantly because they need you versus everybody else kind of applying. It's a different situation, you know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely.
I think you got to really think about how it can change your life, you know?
Yeah. I mean, to me, I think tech is the best place for Black people to be in. Like,
Tech is the new Black.
yeah, tech is the new Black. Look, I think it's the best place, but I've been saying this since 2012. So I'm just glad that we have social media now for people to actually like see like how people are living, you know, like people are actually living good off of their career. You know, you don't have to do anything illegal. You don't have to do anything that's like morally wrong. Like, you're able to just use your skill set, use your mind to make money and to like live a great life, which is something that, you know, honestly, I think a lot of people really take for granted.
I do. And I think it is one of the coolest industries. There's not many industries where you work from home every day. You pretty much are mobile. You know, the technology in itself enables you to just live a certain life. You're entering the most progressive industry in the world, the biggest you know, market cap in the world for any industry. So it's like the growth is also kind of insane. We're stepping into the AI era now where it's just like, who knows what's to come. So it's one of those things where I'm like, you're also positioning yourself with AI coming up to have a skill set, because that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day on people who are going to be displaced through technology. So it's like, you can't beat it, you better join it. And that's kind of one of the mottos I have around technology is I'm so blessed that I chose this space to see from where I graduated almost 7 years ago to now how much this dominates our world, how integrated it is to everybody's lives. We live and breathe it every day. So to be involved in a space that's continuously growing, I think is just a no-brainer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. All right, so to fast forward to where you are now in your career, like working with Microsoft, can you talk a little bit about your day-to-day there? Like, what do you do? What's your role? What's your title?
Yeah, so I'm an enterprise specialist, and I specifically work on the frontline products. So I just got moved into healthcare and life sciences. So I'm specifically helping to enable frontline workers, which are your healthcare clinicians, your nurses, anybody working on the front line in a hospital. So so we enable them to really understand how to digitalize and operationalize those processes. So if you think about, for example, a nurse that's going into come see you if you're her patient, she needs to be able to take notes on a pad, be able to move floors. So maybe we want to enable them with devices that they can move room to room with, versus in the older hospitals, they may have a station in each exact patient room that they're going and typing notes, but then they have to log back in to every single device, every single new patient room they go in, versus they keep a personal device on them. You know, maybe they move multi-floor within that hospital. How do you secure those devices and the patient information on them? How do you put, you know, your typical Microsoft solutions on that frontline device and enable them? But that's just because I'm in healthcare and life sciences. But another great example is when you go to the store, for example, let's say that you're shopping. This has always happened. You know, they pull out their pads or like that frontline device, and some stores don't have that, and they have to tell you, hey, I'll go to the back and check.
Yeah.
Whereas other stores can give you a different experience at store and tell you in seconds if they have something. Right. So even the time for your customer to become disgruntled or walk away, you may lose money on that sale, versus being able to just tell them straight up, like, hey, this is what we have in stock. So just thinking about digitalizing a lot of processes of everybody who's on the front line, whether that's construction or any type of industry you can think in where somebody is a frontline worker. So I am specific to healthcare and life sciences. So I typically work more with hospitals, that's pretty much what I'm doing today. And I guess
how much are you doing in sales though? Like how much in that role?
So I've only been in this role in 8 weeks, and I've actually my first deal is going to be about $3 million. So I found that we're doing a 3-phase approach on the deal, and I've closed out the first phase already. So by November, I got in the role in July, and by November I'll have $3 million in revenue so far. So
you're crushing it. Like, how is it being a woman in like this type of enterprise tech sales role? Like, how is that?
I like it. I think that I don't really see gender, if I'm being honest. In the beginning, I used to be really focused on like, oh, I'm a woman and I'm crushing it. But now I just try to show up and just do my best, because I'm really more so focused about progressing my internal brand, really like how am I being received by VPs, upper management. Like now it's more so a different type of exposure that I'm looking for, more than like my team and like, oh, I'm the girl that's winning. It's like, how can I impact organizations so that I have a certain type of reputation within, companies like this? Because, like this year, I really want to make like Platinum Club. So that's like the highest tier of seller. So you need to be able to contribute outside of just the sales you generate. How can you impact others? Can you get other people to close deals? Like, what can you do that shows you're just a stellar, like, individual or employee? And then, that affects your bonuses. So like, this year I was granted $22,000 just in stock for my performance last year.
That's amazing.
So with what I'm doing this year, like trying to help my team, trying to work with my management to bring the type of coaching that I'm doing outside of Microsoft to my team and enable other people. Those are the things that you really want to do to build your brand at major companies, so that you get paid a lot more when it comes to your performance incentive outside of all the commissions and bonuses that you typically get on a year-to-year. So,
Could you break down kind of like the bonus and sales structure?
Yeah.
People who don't know, just like if you can quickly break that down.
Yeah, and this is great because I've been at Microsoft a year, so it's interesting because, I had a video go viral where it was like, okay, Kayla makes $300K, and everybody was in the comments like, she's lying and this and that, and I'm just like, no, I gave a gauge, one, because that's how I'm not lying, because if you're in sales, there's no specific number you're going to make every year. You have to go out and produce a certain amount in revenue to even know what you're going to make. So you typically don't know till the end of the year. The you know what I'm saying? The range that you could fall into, but you don't know an exact number. So that's one. So I said earlier I would be able to make about 250 to 300K this year. I actually ended up, let's see, I had 267 just in, total compensation for the year.
Nice.
I have 22,000 coming from the stock bonus on top of that. I got 36,000 end of year cash bonus, and then I am still gonna get another 22,000 for just my yearly stock.
That's like 330-ish, right?
Yeah, so like that's what I'm saying. And then this is before social media or any of my hustles where I'm enabling other people to learn. So
so you're making how much at Microsoft right now? Like, so last year you made
like around 315 probably this year is like when I'm gonna close out. So I hit the number that I said. First of all, y'all, no, I'm just like,
no, let them know. Like, let them know.
No, and it's like everybody really drugged me in those comments, and I'm sitting back like, this is my first year here. Like, if I can step into these roles more and more, like, this is the bare minimum. So I think, just as a community, my message would be to really understand the potential, the earning potential, because yes, it took me 7 years to break over 300K in my career, but I was easily clearing 200 in the beginning. So it took a while to get to, and I wouldn't even say a while, I would say it took about 3 years for me to move from that 2 to like breaking over 300, which is not a lot of time for people to go over 100K. And the thing with Microsoft that's really powerful is the stocks, the equity, right? So all the companies I worked before, I didn't have equity, but let's say, for example, Microsoft was to say, hey, I'll give you 100,000 stock over 4 years. What people have to understand is we have the highest stock on the market right now in technology. And as it grows, you know what I'm saying, we're making money off that.
Right.
So if I sign on for 100K and by the time it vests, it's 200, I'm getting that money, even it's growing even as I'm waiting to receive it. After your first year, you get vest every 90 days.
Yep.
I don't know many tech companies who vest every 90 days. Like, that's insane. So every quarter, you're basically just collecting your stocks on top of your commissions, which is really, really powerful.
Yeah, you making me want to go work for Microsoft in the gov tech sector.
Tell you one thing, like, I will say, like, the package that Microsoft has on the market right now is
One of the best.
It's different. Yeah. We have free healthcare. Like, it's crazy. Like, the benefits.
Yeah, that's how it was at my company.
Yeah.
Free healthcare, crazy.
No,
like, if you were single, free healthcare. I was like, damn.
And then if I was married and my partner had a small business, they could get free healthcare.
Hey, no, that's lit. That's
Yeah,
lit.
we get like $1,500 a year towards wellness.
Wow.
They really are very big on like your health, mental health and wellness. So I'll use that for like my yoga, my spa days, you know what I'm saying? I even have like TikTok, like little videos where I went to the spa and I'm like, my tech company paid for this, but it's really like, I do like the incentives and the package. And I always tell people that when it comes to salary to really be invested in a package, because I wasn't aware, like, you know, I started my career at IBM when I first started and I didn't negotiate stock. So I look back now, like 7 years into the game, what would that money have grown to had I really came out of college getting this type of equity from a company? Or, you know, people who are more so in the small startup game, they make tons of money too, because if that startup goes public while you're there, I mean, you're going to make way more than the bigger companies because of the range on where the stock started and where it has grown to. So, you know, it's a lot of tips and tricks we could get into. You know, it's a whole nother conversation, the equity play and negotiating your salary. But I do think it's just really amazing for me to see, like, I'm 28 right now, going into my 30s, what this is going to look like. So I'm very excited about it. You know?
Yeah, that's dope. So you're crushing it at Microsoft, but you're also crushing it with your personal brand and your podcast, Big Boss Energy.
Yeah.
So how does Microsoft feel about like your personal brand and your podcast? Like, how's that come into play with your career?
So it's interesting. I think because my personal brand is really helping people in tech. Now, I feel like if I was just doing something crazy on the side of work, it wouldn't really intertwine and they wouldn't really have a reason to know. But, you know, I've had executives find me through my personal brand. I met with an executive this week who's about to put me on his internal podcast. He has thousands of followers on LinkedIn and is connected to tons of executives, and he wants me to come speak about building a personal brand and how this is helping people. So, you know, I would say that right now, I don't typically like just go around advertising tons of stuff unless I'm specifically on a tech podcast, just really talking about my salary. I don't really talk about the clients. You know, I haven't mentioned like who I'm helping or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's definitely discretion I have to use. I can't just get online and tell you what I'm doing in a deal or, you know,
who it's with.
Yeah, like I can't do that because I'm under NDA for specific things. But as it relates to just me talking about what I'm making, it's not a big deal. So using that to empower other people is actually like helping build my internal brand, because, you know, I just got booked for Sisters in Sales and then they internally found out. So my manager is like, hey, this is a really great value add. If you write a report, we can share this with our organization. My directors see this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it makes it really increases your exposure at the company.
Yeah.
Of your personal brand, bringing you more opportunity.
That and having a really strong personal brand in itself, this is something I'm going to be speaking about, really helps if you're a salesperson.
Yeah.
So, you know, in other industries, it may not be that important, but, you know, for example, I'm going to be in New York. I got invited to like a private Netflix dinner. I'm invited to a day with Google. So I'm also in the tech industry making networks with tons of people, and you never know who may potentially be able to connect you to business when you're doing business. So I look at everything when it comes to sales as my power is in networking. It is in exposing myself as much as I can. And if that comes to the internet, you know what I'm saying? Like, so be it. But I would say, you know, I just definitely have to, like, as my brand has been growing, I've definitely been more conscious about posting more personal things online because, you know, it's shifting in a different direction right now. And I don't want to put myself in any type of predicament where I would jeopardize myself, if that makes sense. So I just have to be very smart and cautious about putting up some of my personal life or business online because my brand is now like helping people, influencing people, and that just naturally comes with a different responsibility, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think it's extremely important for people to build personal brands. Like before, I never thought that it was really that big of a deal. But once you realize the power of a personal brand, your network completely changes. Like you never know who knows you because of your personal brand, and the opportunities that it brings you. Like, you know, they're really unheard of. So if you're somebody who doesn't really want to build a personal brand online or anything like that, you have to network. Like bare minimum, you need a network. Start going to events in your city.
For sure.
Start going to different events that your company holds internally. Getting involved in those organizations and just like stepping up as a leader. I think that helps you out a lot with the growth of your career.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it just shows a certain level of leadership. Imagine, you know, your company finding out, like, I've helped hundreds of people break into tech and transition, and I created a program and a boot camp, and it's kind of like, well, dang, like this employee that works for us and people are seeing that representation come from us, it's a positive value add in your community as well, you know? So I think it's all about what you choose to do with your personal brand that can help you elevate. I will say that, you know, I'm not like on OnlyFans or like doing something crazy. So like just throwing it out there, I'm not. So it's like, I can't speak for everybody, but I do think, you know, as long as I keep crushing it at work, I don't really see, you know, I think I've gotten a lot of support internally, which surprised me because at first I was very nervous. You know, some companies don't receive that as well. So it's just been very interesting to see coworkers, people internally hit me up and congratulate me day in and day out, like, wow, I love this, you're doing great, you're crushing it. And then seeing like that executive buy-in is very, very interesting to start to see now. So I'm very excited about where it's going to take me. Long term, honestly.
Yeah, that's dope. So I'm excited to see where you go long term too. You said you have a program now?
Yeah, so I created the Tech Level, and it's essentially to help people level up their tech skills, most specifically like people we were talking about before, like who may not have a college degree, looking for an entryway into tech sales. You know, I spent 18 months coaching individuals, and that really helped me put a program into perspective, working with people on a day-to-day, understanding the challenges they're having, building out strategies for them. I kind of sat back after running my coaching groups this summer, where I was taking on 25 to 30 people at a time and coaching them through their tech sales journey after they landed in a boot camp. And I was like, okay, well, you're missing the boot camp experience. You need to put that out there. And what separates my boot camp is my coaching. So, you know, so I'm working to become a certified coach, which is something you guys will see coming out as well. Also through the brand and, you know, the company. Like, it's just crazy the amount of things that are going on. But I will just say, I think that's going to be the major differentiator with the Tech Level, is being able to train with the top performer at the top company in the world and getting that insight and expertise to really dominate. And I think, you know, the people that have coached us far have put out such amazing testimonials, just to see the difference between where other people have landed on the market and then when they come through my coaching, where they're going. I think it's been very powerful, and I just felt like I needed to fully step into that. So yeah, be sure to check out the Tech Level, guys. It is a boot camp, and then you get 1 month of dedicated group coaching with me, which is not on the market, like I said. So it was just more so me being a seller, seeing a market gap and saying, okay, well, people are coming to you. I get hundreds and hundreds of messages on LinkedIn every day for people asking me for mentorship. And it really started to get overwhelming, and that's how I created the group sessions. And then from there, I was just like, okay, you got a full throttle, like, because the messages are growing, the brand is growing, everything is getting bigger and bigger. You have to put a product out to help more people. So I would say my goal is to help at a minimum 2,000 people per quarter get into tech sales and go through the boot camp. So that's what I'm putting out into the universe. And you know, with God on my side, I definitely think that we're gonna start to really see a lot more people like myself entering the space. So yeah,
that's dope. That's dope. You're gonna do it. I think that people, sometimes they have a problem with learning from certain people, but the best thing to do is to learn from the best of the best.
Yeah.
So clearly you're the best of the best. You came in, you're at Microsoft, you've only been there for a year, and you're already you're crushing it, right? Yeah. So you're now in your new role. You just did $3 million in 1 quarter. You're absolutely crushing it, and that's the best thing to do. People spend years never making any progress,
right,
always saying what they're going to do, never staying disciplined. Get into a program, something that's structured that's going to help you reach your goal.
No, for sure. Yeah. Just having the motivating factor, I'm very motivating. I feel like I like to tap in and help people see their greatest self outside of work. What is your person? I build my own personal brand.
Yeah.
I think having your own identity and separating yourself from your work is super important, because how do you show up as an individual and what motivates you to feel valuable every day, right? So it's if work's not going good, I don't feel like I'm a failure in life. I feel like I'm having a bad week at work. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like being in sales a very competitive space where there are ups and downs. It's not always going to be peaches and cream. You have to really have a true sense of identity as well into why you're stepping into this role. It can't just always be money,
right?
Because you'll burn out, and I tell people to find what makes you happy, find that passion. And for me, that's been connecting with customers and really helping. I'm a problem solver.
Yeah.
So that's why sales is so easy for me, I would say, because I'm strategic in my thinking. And I love to solve problems, whether it's at work, whether it's in a community setting, that's just my niche, So, yeah.
Dope. So all right. So before we wrap up, what is one piece of advice you could give somebody, the most important piece of advice you can give somebody that wants to get into tech today?
Yeah, I would say create an effective plan. I tell everybody, create a strategy. And I'll give you the link. I literally have a free course as well on how to strategize your career into tech. So I could give you that link to put in the description of the podcast as well. But create a strategy. Nothing is real until you put a plan in place, right? So you can want to break into tech, but I always say, do you have a 3-month plan? Do you have a 1-year plan? And do you have at least a 5-year goal of where you see yourself as an individual? And then how do you micro those steps, or put the macro picture into micro doses of things that you want to accomplish? Whether that's daily, do I want to wake up every day? Okay, if I have a certificate, what does the plan look like? I need to, commit myself for X amount of time at 1 to 2 hours a day, right? It becomes a lot easier when you take the pressure off this big goal and just say, okay, I'm giving myself 6 months to break into tech sales. I want to get a job. I know I need to learn some sales skills. I know I need to put my resume together. I need to optimize my LinkedIn. I need to get some coaching and understand the fundamentals of this space. How do I put that effectively in a plan? And I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure and anxiety on themselves because they don't simply strategize, like I just said, what needs to be done in just bits day by day, not overall, So I would say my biggest advice is, 1, put together the strategy. 2, believe that you can do it. Commit to the time, commit to the investment of you putting your money into a program, you investing your time day to day, and believe it's going to happen, because when you do, that's when it does. You have to believe it's for you, and you have to stay highly motivated during that time. So yeah, I would say that's my advice. But
yeah, I love it. That's great advice. Yeah. If people follow those steps, they'll definitely get to where they want to be. And I do something similar called reverse engineering.
Yeah,
so it's literally the same thing, right? So if you reverse engineer your life, you will hit your goal. So I definitely appreciate you for coming out today. This was a great episode. I hope that people watch it all the way to the end, because you drop gems the entire time. So I want people to make sure they comment, and subscribe. And where can they find you at on all of your platforms?
Yeah, so Instagram is the Kayla B _ LinkedIn, Kayla Burke is my name. And then, if you want to type in Big Boss Energy, you'll find some of the podcast episodes that live on my YouTube channel, which is also just my name, Kayla Burke. And I'll give Simone all the details on the tech level bootcamp and coaching and mentorship if you're interested in breaking into tech sales. And I hope to see you guys, in my coaching sessions if that's something you're interested in. I appreciate you for 100%. It's always a vibe. It's always a vibe.
It's always a vibe. We're trying to work on something else, but
we gotta keep it a secret.
Yeah, we gotta keep it low.
It's probably gonna be a 2024 play for us, realistically, at this point, because our schedules are both insane.
Yeah.
But we are working behind the scenes for some really dope stuff to bring y'all as like two just African American women. I feel like dominating the space right now in the Atlanta area in tech. We just like, we got vibes to bring y'all for sure.
Yeah, that was gonna be crazy.
Yes.
So make sure y'all stay tuned and tap in, like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you on the next episode.